And we're back. So I've cleaned the whole MP7, the inside and the shell of the internals. Wasn't too bad. With some paper, a brush and some compressed air, I was able to get rid of all the sand on the inside of the body. This I just threw in the sink, used some mild degreaser, and then with a brush cleaned everything and rinsed it off. So that's now nice and clean. I did notice some changes with respect to the V1 and also some of the damage that the sand has caused. It will probably be difficult to see on camera, but I really can see that the sand has gotten in between the bolt and the internal body here. It made some light scratches. It's not problematic, but it is there. That also goes for this half. So some of the differences that I noticed, or I believe it was not on the V1, these rails where the bolt slides in, like that. It has some roughness from the injection mold. Now, that's actually pretty clever that VFC did that, but it's also kind of weird to see, so let me explain. They probably did that to decrease the real contact area, also to be able to keep grease better on the material, so that if you grease these tracks slightly, that grease will stick better to the surface. It will not get completely pushed away, so it will create like a smoother running system if you use a little bit of grease, and also the real contact area is decreased, so friction will probably be less noticeable. That also goes for where the hop-up adjustment bar, that this thing also runs. So also on this inside rail or edge, they kind of did the same. It kind of looks like massive amount of wear, but it is not. It is there with a clever reason, and that just caught my eye. That is interesting to see. That's it for these two halves now. There are probably some more differences with respect to the V1 system. I think most noticeably will be the steel insert for the barrel and how they did that. But other, I'm not sure. I believe that Reaper Airsoft, that German channel, he made a great video, I believe, but I haven't checked, but I believe he made a video comparing the V1 and the V2 system. It's a pretty long video as well, but that guy makes the best airsoft tagging videos out there. He goes into great detail, he explains a bunch, and I just really like his channel. If you want some more information on just the general aspects of also this thing, and some more detailed information, some comparison stuff, then look for his YouTube channel. I might link it in the video description below. Right now I will be putting this aside. I also reconfirmed that this spring combination was indeed correct. The end pass I installed, but I made a small modification to the nozzle, as you can see. So I made a small cutout here. Now, I've made that with a reason. That is for the hop-up lever. So this is my hop-up lever design. It is the same for the UMP, and that fits. So that's really nice. Now, that design is quite old already. So these bags with these levers, that is probably 6 years old, because that's when I first worked on one of these, but then the V1 system. And I developed a hop-up lever for that back in the day. I talked with the guy that brought me that V1 system, and I said like, hey, we can probably make something better for the stock hop lever. If you're interested, then we can develop that, and it will probably result in some better shooting performance. So we did, and indeed that was a big improvement. Now, back then I had several different variants made. Right now, for the MP7 and the UMP, it can just be the same thing. The difference with all these were the length, or where the pressure point is. I'll just show that better, make it more visual. So we're just going to take this apart, because we have to leave it apart anyway, because right now I don't have the right nub here that should go with the lever. So I already ordered some Begadi nubs that will go into this. I also had to modify the feed ramp. Probably show you what I did here. There is already a small cutout there, but you have to enlarge that cutout to 6 millimeters. So 6 millimeters. And you just follow the cutout that is already there. So the width that you have to make is about 4.5 millimeters, something like that. Because you need to create enough room so that the nub that will go into the lever can still clear the feed ramp. That's the trick. Then I post-processed the lever, so I made the width to fit the hop-up chamber. I had to sand this down to 5 or just below 5 millimeters. And the original bucking that comes with the MP7 is decent. It's decent enough to be used for a little while. Unfortunately, the guy that sent me this had some sand in his entire system. That sand also got into his barrel, and even though this thing is still pretty much brand new, he already has like long scratches along the length of the barrel. It's not ideal. I'm not going to polish that. Eventually he has to decide to replace this, but for now, for the coming skirms next year that he wants to do, this will perform just fine. But still, sand is your enemy. Keep it out of your system. It's kind of a shame that even though this thing is practically brand new, that you already have a lot of scratches on the inside of your barrel. It's not necessary to replace the barrel prematurely. It's not perfect either anymore. But besides that, I can show it better on the maple leaf. On this maple leaf bucking, because that has a more pronounced contact patch. But also this VFC one also has an indication on where that contact patch is. This is more easier to see, and in the future he will probably be using one of these, or at least I will be advising him to. If I now put this together, then you can also see that that cutout has enough room, just over a millimeter, so that the nub will not interfere with the feed ramp. But also what you can see is that the lever sticks out about maybe a millimeter. It's less. Yeah, about 7 to 8 tenths of a millimeter. That we need to compensate on the nozzle as well, because the nozzle will engage with the hop-up chamber and it will fully bottom out against the hop-up chamber. So that's why we need to create a little bit of room so that the nozzle can never hit the lever with the nub. So what I have done here, I've created a small cutout with my Dremel that's about 6.5 millimeters wide, and it is about 2.2 millimeters deep. So I kind of just eyeballed this. That should be enough to clear everything. The way that you cut this is actually really simple. So you just put this all together. You put the nozzle against the hop-up chamber, and then you are going to see where do I need to make my cut. So you kind of just remember that, then you take your Dremel and you slowly start removing material going in this kind of a motion so that you create a nice slot. On this part you can also do it with the Dremel, but I used a knife. So if you use a really sharp Stanley knife like that, that will also work. But you can also do that with your Dremel. Just go slow. Don't crank your Dremel up to maximum RPM. Just keep it at the lowest setting. That will just work fine. And then you can make that space to clear the lever. Alright, so that's the modification on the hop-up chamber, so that you can just use a different bucking and a regular nub. It will make the hop-up more forgiving. I have seen some people complaining online or in the Heavy Recoil Discord group that setting their hop-up can be a challenge, and that's not a surprise, because this plastic lever, it's either shooting just low, and if you then adjust it ever so slightly, then it overhops. With this modification, with this lever that I designed, and with a regular nub, setting your hop up will be much more forgiving. So that's I think a big plus. Oh yeah, I'm now forgetting to show you one thing. So, alright, and right now you can see that the lever is contacting pretty much at the center of that contact patch, and that's just really nice. So that is kind of what we want. You don't want it too far forward, it's actually better to have it a little bit to the rear. But this looks really good. And now we're just waiting for the nub to arrive. I'm just going to assemble this to keep all the components together. And then we're going to put this to the side. And we're back. I forgot one other thing that we have to modify, because else the hop-up lever modification will not work. And that is because when I did this modification for the V1 was quite some time ago. So what we also need to modify is a piece of the internal housing. We need to cut away a small bit of material in order to make the lever fit and have it rotate, or have it rotate freely. We need to do that modification on both sides, and I've already marked off what we have to cut away. It's not much, and I need a little bit more light. I'm not sure if you can see it. Yeah, so I made a really small scratch there. It's pretty much from the corner 1.5 millimeters in, and that's what we need to remove. Yeah, there you can see the scratch better. So that scratch is pretty much from the corner there, 1.5 millimeters from that edge to that. That's about 1.5 millimeters. That's what we need to remove. And we are going to remove that as deep as this cutout is. And we're going to do that with a Dremel, because that's the easiest. Put some glasses on, and we're just going to go slow, and we'll see how we do. And the same for the other side. I'll show it. But I need to cut a little deeper. That's it. Alright, so as you can see, there's now a small chamfer on that part, and if I push it up, then it can fully reach the top and it's not touching on the front. So that's perfect. Now, doing this with a Dremel, you can easily cut away too much, so it's really important that you go easy. What I'm using here is what is this, a 3mm, it looks like an end mill. This is pretty forgiving when working with polymers, but it can also just rip into the material. So you really need to have a steady hand, hold it tight, and just go slow. That way you will not cut into parts or areas that you don't want to. Dremel to the side, and I also just ordered a new Dremel, an actual Dremel, because the one that I was just using was from HBM Machines. It's a really cheap thing and I'm tired of it, so I ordered a new one. But I ordered the fancy one with the whole toolbox and all the accessories. Now that fits, I can more or less already start putting some things back in, but I don't think that is the best thing to do. It wouldn't be that useful to do it now, because I do first need to wait for the nub for the new hop-up arm, because I need to install the barrel first, then I can do the hammer. Then that thing goes back in, that thing I can pretty much put back in, but then everything gets screwed back together, and then I can do all the components on the outside. So it's not really that much use if I continue right now. I'll just have to wait for the parts to show up, but that probably will take some time because it has to come over from Germany. Christmas is around the corner, so this will probably stay where it is until that nub arrives, and then I'll continue. One other thing, I probably mentioned this tool already, but this tool, man, this metal scraper, this is such a convenient tool to have. I also didn't tell you yet, but I also deburred some of the edges of the bolt carrier so that it cannot bite into the plastic housing. And I did that with just this tool. It's so much easier doing it with this than with respect to like a metal file. This is really a nice piece of kit to have. You also just saw me using it to remove some of the burrs that came from the dremeling on the internal body. This thing is way more convenient to use for that than a Stanley knife, for example. However, these things are also really dangerous if you keep them sharp like I do. So I usually kind of regrind them every so often with some of these grinding stones, but it becomes really, really sharp. It's also really pointy, and it happened to me already a few more times than I like to admit. But I have cut myself pretty nasty with this tool, because sometimes when you're scraping metal or scraping apart or deburring something, you're putting some force on it, it can slip and it can just easily slip into your hand. I've had that happen a few times. There's a scar here. There I have a point. This one was also a nasty one. It just happens. But takes a little bit getting used to working with such a tool, but if you don't rush what you're doing, if you pay attention where you place your hands, then injuring yourself is less likely to happen, but it'll happen to you at some point with such a tool. It's just how it is, but you really need to be careful working with such a tool, but it's a great tool to have, absolutely great tool to have and add to your kit when you're doing airsoft tech work. I use this on literally everything that I work on. Just a nice bit of advice. Yeah, so that's it for now. Christmas is starting as from tomorrow, so yeah, we'll just be waiting, and when the Begadi nub arrives, then we'll continue with this. Alright, happy holidays.